You recognise, of course, that there is a considerable amount of evidence from...
This is when Mark Sedwill, former Cabinet Secretary and head of the Civil Service, was cross-examined at the COVID inquiry. Here he's being asked about Boris Johnson's leadership and how Boris ran the government during the pandemic.
The evening notes from Sir Patrick Vallance, from Mr Cummings' evidence, from the evidence of officials and advisers in Downing Street in the Cabinet Office, that there were problems concerning Mr Johnson's leadership, his oscillation, his ability to build an effective and cohesive team. To the extent that your obligation was to build a system around him that would enable proper decision-making, facilitate his job as Prime Minister, doesn't the fact that these complaints and these concerns continued throughout February, March, April, May, all the way through to the end of 2020 show that your attempts to build a corrective system failed?
Is this correct? Were steps taken, for example, to aid Johnson?
I don't agree with that. They're complaining about how he got to decisions and how he operated with his inner circle. And I didn't think there was any way I could change that. This was the way he operated. My job was essentially to create a system which insulated the rest of Whitehall.
The very fact that the Cabinet Secretary has to insulate his own Prime Minister, the Prime Minister, from the rest of Whitehall is a sorry reflection of the workings of government at that level.
So it seems as if Mark Sedwill had to cushion the impact of Johnson's involvement with decisions regarding COVID.
It was a very challenging period, but as I said, my job was not to judge the way a Prime Minister makes a decision. They're democratically elected. It was to try to ensure that however they got to the decisions and however much stray voltage there was at the centre, and there was an awful lot, that the system of government worked. And I sought to try and achieve that, particularly on the big decisions the government took going into and coming out of the lockdowns.
So effectively a system of government can have a rotten core, but the civil service have to work around it.
My suggestion to you, Lord Sedwill, is that to a large extent your worthy efforts failed. Notably, in August 2020, Sir Patrick Vallance records in his evening notes these words: Sedwill came back saying this administration is brutal and useless. Did you say those words?
I don't recall doing so, and I can't actually recall what might have prompted it, but I have no doubt, I don't doubt Sir Patrick's memory. It must have been a moment of acute frustration with something. I don't know what.
I can well imagine that was true. Brutal and useless. What a description.
On pages 2, 6 and 9 of this group, there are further references to the behaviour in Downing Street, the people that the Prime Minister has surrounded himself with, references to them being so mad, they're madly self-defeating. I've never seen a bunch of people less well-equipped to run the country.
That's pretty damning, and all of this during a pandemic. Sometimes these things hit you. The reality of sheer ineptitude rising in the form of Johnson to the heights of PM.
Who, when you said these people, were you and Mr. Case referring to?
Did I say these people? I'm not sure. I think anyway.
The PM and the people he chooses to surround himself with are basically feral. You say,
right.
I've got the bite marks.
Yeah.
Come on, who are these people?
Well,
who are those people?
Well, as you will see, Mr. Keith, there is sometimes some gallows humour in some of these WhatsApps. I think so. That first exchange came after a point where there'd been very severe friction between me and the Prime Minister and his immediate team.
So just his teams, no names.
A remark from me in another WhatsApp with Simon Case, in which I think I say something like, it is difficult to get people to march to the sound of gunfire if you shoot them in the back.
What a crazy situation. Click here for another COVID inquiry video.